Between the Grooves is hosted by James Curtis, music director and morning man in the Greater Toronto Area on Joy Radio. Hosts James Curtis talk to artists and industry insiders to discover the connection between music and faith. You can connect with the show at faithstrongtoday.com/betweenthegrooves or via Twitter @betweengrooves.
It's the Between the Grooves Christmas special. This is James Curtis. So glad you could join us. You know, we are bringing back many of our previous guests over the last year to share some Christmas memories. But before we do that, Santa is here.
Black Santa.
Drew Brown! So good to have you.
Good to be back, man.
Drew Brown co-hosting with me for this Christmas episode, and it just makes sense because a lot of the guests we've spoken to were just that. It was you and I chatting with them. So it's so good to have you back. What have you been up to over the last few months?
Oh, man, surviving the pandemic. I mean, that's what I've been doing. It's good to be back. Good to be back in the studio. Well, at least, through these electronic means of working with you and being a part of the show again. It's been good. Diving deeper into music as things sort of opened up a bit more. I was able to do more studio work and a little bit more traveling, not much, obviously.
Right.
And actually dipped my toe back into a little bit of church ministry, which is nice, sort of working at a church in downtown Toronto area, just sort of helping out and, serving when I can. And just trying to get back to music. I missed being an artist so much, spread my wings out a little bit and get back to being creative again.
Sure. And it's kind of back to that normal, which isn't quite normal yet, but it's right. Getting there. It's getting better.
It's getting there.
I'm optimistic. You keep hearing things in the news where you think, it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. That's inevitable, I suppose, but hopefully things just continue to get better and better. So glad to have you here for Christmas. This is going to be a celebration. Lots of fun stories from some of our guests to share with us. I know it's been a difficult couple of years. I know even with our pandemic Christmas special last year, it was, you're hearing the stories of people not being able to gather together, even being apart from loved ones. So it's difficult. And even now, where, maybe some loved ones are no longer around, right? Just because of circumstances and not necessarily just pandemic related. My dad passed away about a year and a half ago, and I'm still getting used to that whole, let's get together for Christmas, and he's not there. Now, he was deteriorating over a period of time anyway, so the last few times he was there, he, wasn't all there. But yeah, it's different, kind of getting used to the new norm, getting used to doing things a little differently. I'm glad that it's less video calls and more in-person stuff than it was a year ago, I suppose.
Yeah, same here. It's good to actually connect with people in person. It's good to play shows. It's good to, be able to just kind of live life. Again, not completely normal, like you said. We're still in this weird stage, lots of masks and lots of distancing, but at least it feels a bit closer to just being back to normal and having small chances to connect with family when you can and friends when you can. But yeah, especially as I travel, as I sort of meet people, I'm hearing all these stories of people, not just artists, but just everybody who, like you said, who just went through it and maybe even still going through it, especially in this Christmas season. Christmas can be a hard season for many people anyway, let alone in a pandemic.
Yeah.
And let alone coming out of this part of the pandemic and moving into something else. So it's really awesome to have a sense of normalcy, but at the same time, I see people who are still in the thick of it, and it's just as hard as it was last year.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful and tough season for many of us.
Yeah, I think everybody deals with it in different ways. One of our guests this past year was Hannah Kerr, and she had some stressful moments in Christmases past, and she joins us now to tell us the story about it.
Yeah, so the best Christmas gift that I've ever gotten was from my brother Michael. I had this teddy bear all growing up. From the time I think I was 3 years old, I got it, and I named him Fuzz Nookie. Don't ask. I don't know why that's his name, but that's what I named him.
Wow.
Yeah, really nice. He was like a TY bear, and his original name was Fuzz.
Oh,
and then my parents gave him to me because I had given up my pacifier, which I called a Nookie. I don't know. So Nuky, I don't know. You're laughing, I hear it. So anyways, I had that bear all growing up, and it was so special to me, and I always said, like, I'm going to take this with me to college and on the road and all this stuff. Well, I lost him. I don't know where, I don't know when, but I lost him. And I was so sad about that. I was like, Fuzz Nookie is somewhere out in the world just without me. And when I was, I think, a sophomore in college, my brother Michael found an exact replica of Fuzz Nookie and gave him to me for Christmas. And I remember opening that bear and just crying. It was like I was 3 again, just opening the bear for the first time. And there's just so many good memories associated with that bear and growing up in Buffalo. And then he was with me through our move to Nashville. And oh man, it was just such a sweet and thoughtful gift. And every Christmas we always talk about how, like, he can give me any gift for the rest of my life, but I don't think anything will ever compare to giving me my childhood stuffed animal in a new form.
Such an emotional moment, yes.
It was. It really was.
Yeah, I guess.
My mom took a picture, because my mom always has her camera out, taking pictures of us opening our presents, and I had legitimate tears in my eyes. Like, oh, it's just so silly, but it means a lot, and it meant a lot that it came from him, that he knew that that would be something that I loved, and he meant it to be funny, but then I cried. So then he was like, "Oh yeah, I totally meant it to be emotional."
But you still have it, right?
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
it's in my room right now.
There you go.
I love happy endings. I love when things just work out like that. It's great.
Yeah, nice when everything works out in the end. So a couple of guests that I was able to bring in a few weeks back, you'll know Ben as Neon Feather and Chris Cron, Mr. Producer, as well. They formed this group called All Creatures, and I know you've heard the conversation. Now, they had some stressful moments to share with us as well.
I have the first thing that pops into my head is a little embarrassing, but it's like the one thing that to say the one thing is probably an understatement, but it's a thing that I look back on in my childhood and I'm like, am I crazy? Because as a kid growing up, going Christmas tree shopping was so anxiety inducing. I have no idea why.
What's stressful about that?
I know. I don't know if I don't know what it is, and maybe this is better suited for a therapy session than this, but every year for a pocket of my childhood, time would come to do Christmas tree shopping, and I just could not bring myself willingly to go, and it was like, I would just get so stressed out about going, because I don't know if my family just took really long or like what, but I just was like, I just can't do it. I cannot go. I just cannot go do Christmas tree shopping. And so that's the thing that I always think about, like every Christmas. I'm like, man, why did I hate that so much? I don't know.
Okay, what about you?
Oh man, well, I have a funny story. So my family grew up going Christmas caroling every year. We had 16 cousins on my dad's side, and we'd all get together, all aunts and uncles and all of us, and go caroling around my grandparents' neighborhood. And so moving out here to Tennessee, my wife and I wanted to carry on that tradition, and we didn't really know a ton of people in our neighborhood, and we're like, this will be a great way to get to know our neighbors. And so we put a little invitation to like caroling, and then have like cider and cocoa and all that stuff at our house afterwards. We put an invitation in everyone's mailbox in our neighborhood, and I think 2 families showed up. We ended up inviting some friends from church as well, and I'm like leading at the front. I've got my scarf and my hoodie on, and I'm ready and leading the pack, and I would go and knock on the first door, and I said, good afternoon, can we sing you a Christmas song? And the guy says no and slams the door.
Merry Christmas to you too.
Very first time, and that happened like 3 or 4 times while we were out that day. People, like some guy came to the door and was like, what are you guys selling? Nothing. We just want to sing you a song.
Right.
No, thanks. And shut the door. So that I don't know if that strengthened my resolve to keep going, because we've done it now ever since. And
have people warmed up to it now?
people have warmed up to it. Our neighborhood has we've had some new younger families move into the neighborhood, so it's starting to snowball a bit. But yeah, that first year was brutal.
Those guys are so great. It's really good to be able to look back in hindsight and appreciate those funny moments, find the humor in things. That's good, man. Really good.
Yeah. Especially, with everything that happens at Christmas time, it's never going to be perfect, right? So let's remember back and think back to, those days gone by and just think of the good things and find the humor in what's happened.
Sometimes it's better if it's not perfect. Those moments when like the turkey explodes or someone drops the gravy at dinner time, the lights fall down the tree. Those moments sort of bring some humor and some joy back.
And you'll always remember it.
Exactly.
I think this is the perfect time to bring in Dave Fry from Sidewalk Prophets.
This could be a spoiler alert, so because there's tiny children, cover their ears for 5 seconds.
That's right.
My mom's friend would dress up as Santa Claus and come to our house, and she would leave the blinkers on her car, so we thought Rudolph and the reindeer were out there blinking. So she would come. I would say, "Hey, Mom, how come Santa sounds like Donna?" And Mom was like, "Because Santa can change his voice to whoever you love." And I was like, "Oh, that makes sense."
That's awesome.
Anyways, one Christmas, Santa let in a bird behind him. We didn't know. We thought it might be a bat. It was flying around. It knocked over the Christmas tree. Chaos is happening. Santa jumps up with his magical bag and he captures the bird, right? And takes it and he flings it out into the night. And I'll never forget my grandma looking around like broken ornaments and toys all over the ground. And she said, "I've heard of the bluebird of happiness, but that was the Christmas sparrow of destruction." And I was like, man, Grandma's right. I was like 5 or 6, and I still remember that because the tree's broken, everything's falling apart, and we all just had to laugh. And it was like a Chevy Chase moment.
Right, right.
And then the other one I that came to mind was when I was a little boy. I love baseball, and so our neighbor ended up getting me an autographed Mickey Mantle baseball card for Christmas, and it was unbelievable, like Mickey Mantle, legend. And I was so happy. I was like, "This is awesome." Mickey Mantle's that's just legendary.
Yeah.
It's like hugging Babe Ruth. And then my brother opened his gift. My brother loves baseball, maybe even more than me, and he opens up his gift, and he got an autographed copy of the Polar Express, beautiful book. And he looked up at my wonderful neighbor, and he said, "You got me a stupid book?" And I'll never forget that moment because my brother got spanked really hard. And I remember him going into another room, my dad, and respectfully spanking my brother as he should have been. Yeah. And I said that was my favorite Christmas present. And I said that
on
a radio station.
Him getting a spanking was your... Okay.
Yeah. He deserved it. And I said that jokingly on a radio show. And lo and behold, pitcher legend Nolan Ryan. Nolan Ryan was listening to me talk on the radio that day. We were at Texas, at the baseball park that he owns there at Minor League Stadium. And Nolan Ryan was listening. He called the stadium and asked the stadium to give me an autographed baseball from Nolan Ryan to give to my little brother the next Christmas. So now my brother is, he was like 4. Now he's like 30.
Yeah.
And so at Christmas, I wrap up this baseball. I also wrap up a book. And so when my brother opens up the book, he's like, "Oh, thanks for the book, man. That's cool." And then I was like, I got another gift, and I had him open it up. And I said, "Oh, sorry, that one's from me. It's a Nolan Ryan autograph." And he laughed, and I said, "No, it's actually for you." And I told him that story. And so all these years, it came full circle that my brother ended up getting an amazing legend of baseball, to autograph something for him. And I thought that was a pretty cool Christmas gift all these years later.
Yeah, pretty cool moment for sure. That is awesome.
And he didn't get spanked, so that was good.
Yeah, that was the only difference. That was the only difference. He didn't get spanked that Christmas.
The only difference. Yeah.
One of the things that I love about the conversation we have is this reoccurring idea of these full circle moments, how everything sort of comes right back. Mm-hmm. And that was such a great moment and such a great feel good moment for them as a family. So,
and how
I
many
love
years
these little sort
later?
of
How many
moments.
years later,
Yeah,
too, right?
exactly.
It's like that is just so wild, you know.
So good.
It's so nice when
good.
it all works out in the end. That's just an incredible, moving story. You know, puts
Yeah.
a tear to your eye. So,
Totally.
I really, you know, when you speak about feel good moments, I do enjoy Christmas Eve services.
I miss that. Yeah.
You know, they're often very busy because it's a busy time of year. And so I haven't always been able to attend one because then you're going to be up early the next day. And typically in my family, we always leave it to the last minute to wrap gifts. So that's the last couple of Christmases. Christmas Eve is scrambling to wrap up gifts and get them under the tree. And then you're just too exhausted to go to a Christmas Eve service. But I do enjoy the Christmas Eve service, the intimate time. There's so much creativity that can happen in a service like that, and just being with people that you know, that you've hung out with over the last year. So nice to see that sort of thing happening again as well.
Yeah. I remember when I was a worship pastor, I used to actually kind of be a little bit bah humbug about Christmas because the Christmas Eve services were such these big ordeals and, you know, big production,
A lot of work.
intensity, and expectations higher because
Yeah.
people are expecting like this something beautiful to happen, a beautiful moment.
And it's not the usual either, right? It's not the usual
Right.
service that's easier to plan because
Right.
I hate to say it, but regular church services are almost cookie cutter. I don't like saying that, but they are, right? There's certain things
Right.
that have to happen in these things, but in a Christmas Eve service, well, it's totally different. Sky's the limit, right?
The bar is way higher and the expectations are way higher, which just makes it even worse.
Yeah.
And so it's been good these last few years. I mean, obviously not last year, but this last few years, sort of just being a musician or just being a dad, you know, and just being at the services without the pressure, without that kind of expectation, and just enjoying it for what it is. And enjoying that sense of community even more, that sense of intimacy even more. I miss that so much.
Yeah. Now, speaking of Christmas Eve, Tyler Roberts joins us from Red Rocks Worship. And how's this for a scenario for a Christmas Eve service?
Well, maybe 8 or 9 years ago, we had just started using Pro Tools to run all of our tracks at church. And so, but we were so new to it. And to be honest, someone built the session for me. Someone got it all going. And then all I was supposed to have to do was hit play. Well, we tracked in some, what was the song? It was some Trans-Siberian Orchestra song. Carol of the Bells.
Yes.
Yep. Right. Well, we had one of our amazing guitar players come in and track all that because real talk, most guitar players can't actually pull that off live very well. And so whatever. Well, we got off. It was one of our Christmas services and we got off the track and the computer was at front of house. Front of house didn't know we were off. So, because I don't know why, that says a lot right there. But so they just kept it playing, and so, dude, we're like it was like dueling guitars, it was just like nothing was working together. We were so off, and we had to get through that whole intro piece. So I'll never forget about that. Humble beginnings, and you know what? Not even humble beginnings. God has a way of keeping us humble even now. It's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
When something goes wrong, it goes wrong, doesn't it? And you can visualize that. You can just, you were there. You knew exactly what happened. From a musician standpoint, from a technical standpoint, you knew exactly what happened. And you're just cringing, knowing all of this. Yeah.
Yeah. But thankfully, we can also look back and remember the things that have gone right.
Absolutely.
Sort of,
Yeah.
Right? Because we're going, okay, yeah, that sucked, but at least, there's that and there's that and there's that.
That's
So,
right.
yeah,
Well, and you
count
learn
our
from
blessings,
it. You
Mama
learn
said.
from it as well, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it, man.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Speaking of things going right, let me say 2021 has been an interesting year. And I guess from the start, I'll say Maverick City, wow. I mean, they really blew up this year. They really did.
Yeah, they did. And we've been trying to get them on the podcast for a long time, guys. Come on the podcast.
Well,
We want you.
they got themselves on the map, that's for sure. Because a year and a half ago, I don't know of many people that would have known of Maverick City, or sorry, Mav City. That's the cool way to say it, right?
Mav City. Yeah, they did something really special where during the pandemic, they really pushed hard on YouTube. I mean, they were pushing hard before, but that's where they really got traction because people were at home.
Yeah.
and they had all this content, and so they were releasing content.
That was the key for them, was
constantly last
content.
year.
Like, I cannot believe the amount of content they pushed out in a very short period of time. And you're right. I think that's what really did it for them. And of course, being played on the radio now, and everybody knows who they are. And if you don't know who they are, check them out. And a friend of mine I got together with a few weeks back, and he loves old style vineyard type music. And, we talk about what's your favorite song and everything else. And I said, have you ever heard of Maverick City? He says, no, I haven't heard of Maverick City. And I just played Promises, their song Promises. And it's kind of right up that vineyard, old school vineyard alley anyways. And I knew he would love it. And sure enough, he loved it. And I'm sure it's on his playlist now. So yeah. Now, 2021, also interesting with... I've noticed a lot of crossover over the last year. And by crossover, I mean a lot more. Like, you've always had the Kirk Franklin who crossed over from gospel to the CCM world. But more so now with guys like Dante Bowe and Jordan Armstrong and stuff, and CeCe Winans, like all of that stuff where it's being played on mainstream Christian radio versus just gospel stations before throughout the United States. And then the other thing I've noticed is a lot of, and this is nothing new, but I've just noticed it a lot more over the last year, is the crossover between country and Christian, right? Which I know you'll agree is easier, right?
Yeah.
But the fact that it's become acceptable in the CCM world, right? To get a little bit of that twang, your Ann Wilson, even Rhett Walker, and Zach Williams to a certain extent. I mean, he's always been in the CCM world, but he's got that flavor that's kind of country to him.
That's right.
And maybe that's the reason why, some of these other artists have been able to get into the Christian world.
Yeah, definitely. That's a very interesting thing where country and CCM, they're so intertwined. And they're so incestuous, if you will.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people who play for this artist in the country world also play for this artist in the CCM world, and back and forth.
Yeah.
But it's really cool kind of hearing these country tracks being played on CCM radio, or these gospel tracks now being played on CCM radio. What I'm curious about is seeing how Kanye is now the biggest CCM artist of the year. How do you feel about that?
I don't feel he is, though. I don't feel he is.
No, he actually was.
No.
So Billboard said he is the number one CCM artist.
But that's what Billboard said. That's what Billboard said. I don't know that Billboard has any clue.
I think numbers. It's a numbers game, right?
I think
that's all it is.
Yeah, I agree. It's numbers. I don't know that he's necessarily getting tons of airplay on any of his stuff, and especially like maybe it's old news. Right? Because what has he done in the last 6 months?
He released an album of like 30,000 songs.
An album of 30,000 songs?
Not really. I think it's like 32 songs on it.
Right.
I'm not exaggerating. It's some crazy amount of number, yeah.
Yeah, I just don't see that he's really had such a... I think he's had more of an impact on the mainstream secular radio
I agree.
And those listeners than to the CCM world and those listeners, right?
Right.
So I understand.
Totally agree.
I understand what Billboard is saying. I'm not saying like if you get to the Dove Awards or to the Grammys and stuff, maybe he wouldn't get so high a position. Maybe he'd be the runner-up or something like that. That's all I'm saying. So it's been an interesting year. If you had asked me a year ago about Kanye, I would have said, yeah, well, that kind of makes sense, right?
Right.
But this year, I think he's kind of, I haven't heard a lot from him in the last few months, right? Except what's going on with his marriage and everything else, right? So and maybe that's the reason why I feel the way I am. Having said that, he was one of the guys I would never want to chat with on the podcast, and I've said that to you for years. And now I'd still be interested. I'd be interested in him. I'd be interested in Mr. Biebs, Justin Bieber.
Mr. Biebs.
There's only one person I wouldn't want on the podcast, and I'm not even going to name who that is.
Come on, do it. All I want for Christmas is you.
That's the only time you hear her music. That's enough. That's enough. Stop it.
Oh, that's good.
Okay, let's focus. we have a Christmas episode we're doing here. We're way off base. So yeah, let's get back to it. Andrew Ripp, one of our guests over the last year, and it was a great conversation with him. And here's his story that he'd like to share about Christmas.
Yeah, my mom's cousin Randy, he came to my grandma's place one Christmas for a family get together, and he, it's like the kind of cousin you don't see every year, so it's like kind of special when he shows up. And he's kind of a quiet, reserved guy. And me and my cousins were musicians, so we usually have guitars that we bust out at some point, and everybody, in the living room, whether they be singing along or we're just jamming songs or whatever. I remember starting to play the riff from the Doobie Brothers' Long Train Running. You guys know that song?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
There's
not really Christmassy, but that's okay.
No, but there was a Christmas tree right there. So,
okay.
That paints the scene. But it was Christmas Day. I started playing that groove, and this very quiet, reserved man got up off of his chair, walked into the center of the room, and just started losing his mind dancing. Oh, wow. And we'll never forget, the whole family just started to die laughing. And we all reference it all the time because it was so left field. Like, Randy doesn't even talk. But he got up that day and lost his mind in front of the Christmas tree. And it was just awesome. It was awesome. So that's what comes to mind for me.
That's great. I can visualize that too. That's great.
Yeah.
Oh, man, it was good.
Yeah.
Man, now there's a breakthrough artist, Andrew Ripp. I love this guy. And hey, just from me to you, listeners, if you haven't heard his version of Joy to the World, it is one of my favorite Christmas songs ever. Check it out. Andrew Ripp is amazing.
This song is just too short, right? Because I've played it on the radio. I think it's less than 3 minutes. Like, come on, give us more. Give us more.
Yeah.
Right? You are listening to our 2021 Between the Grooves Christmas special. James Curtis along with Drew Brown and Maddie Mullins with a Christmas memory to share with us.
This is the honest to God truth. I was probably 4, 5 years old, maybe 6. And we had family friends named the Jonases. And my sister was best friends with the girl in the Jonas family. And that girl in the Jonas family went on to date Michael Tate. And so when the Jonas family came over to our house for Christmas, I was very young, they brought Michael with them to our house.
Oh, wow.
In Spokane, Washington. Michael Tate sat in my living room and ate every single Reese's out of the bowl on the table. I will never forget. He ate
all the Reese's.
Every single Reese's peanut butter cup out of the bowl that was on the table, and I was sitting on the couch next to him. And I will literally never forget that. You can ask anyone in my family. We'll all remember that.
That is awesome.
That's amazing.
And now I want chocolate.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Dude, I can go for some chocolate right now. I'm so hungry.
Yeah, so am I.
Some of those Reese's. Oh,
yeah, why did we have Maddie back? Why? But a small world running into Michael of Newsboys. Actually, it would have been DC Talk at the time.
Yeah,
Michael
guess so.
Tate.
Wow.
Now, that's a guy we need to have on the podcast.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Come on, Tate. We want to talk to you.
That'd be nice. One of the groups that has made a big splash this year as well, and they're also a crossover group, is the family band Kane. And here they are now with a Christmas story to share with us.
Yes. Okay, so the Kane family, we love Christmas. It's almost annoying to people because we'll decorate as soon as Halloween's over. Like, Thanksgiving is basically Christmas for the Kane family. But in 1998, our mom, we were in Tennessee visiting some family, and she got a really bad stomach ache. And so I was only 8 years old, so I was just kind of like goofing off doing kid stuff. But I just remember it getting serious, and so Dad brought us in there to like pray for her, and it just kept getting worse. And so he finally took her to the emergency room, and we had just met some new friends of my parents, and so we actually had to go stay with them for Christmas Eve, which was kind of like not a tradition for us at all. Like, we're normally in our home, we're doing our Kane stuff, and we had to stay with these new people that we just met, so we're already really homesick. And my mom ended up having to have she had appendicitis. She had to have an appendectomy on Christmas Eve, and so we spend Christmas Eve away from our parents. But what was so cool is that we woke up, Christmas morning, the family had went and purchased gifts for us, all 3 Kane kids, including their own children. And they didn't even really know us that well, but to wake up and feel like we were still cared about, even though we couldn't be with our mom and dad, it was amazing. It was so cool. And then we traveled back home, and somehow Santa Claus had left gifts for us in Hartselle, Alabama, too.
So parents can't do that all in one night.
You know, one of my favorite Christmas stories is the one that Jordan Smith shared. Remember that one?
Oh, yeah. And have you heard his new Christmas song?
Oh, so good.
Oh, if you have not heard his song, it's called "Oh Come, Let Us Adore." And you might start listening to the song and think it's just the same old.
Same old.
It is
but
not.
No.
Oh,
but
it
no,
is a powerful, powerful song that you have to listen. Jordan Smith with "Oh Come, Let Us Adore." And here is his Christmas story that he's sharing with us.
Christmas of 2016 was, I thought, going to be a really difficult Christmas because I lost my grandfather in 2016. He had Parkinson's disease and dementia, and he passed away in March, just as my first record was coming out. And it was like the hardest thing I've ever been through. And that Christmas, we were all so worried about what it was going to be like when we gathered with family, knowing that he wasn't there. And we're all gathered around the Christmas tree, me and my cousins and my aunts and my uncles, our whole extended family. And my mom brings out this bag and she pulls it out, and it's pillows that she has made with my papa's old shirts.
Oh,
wow.
And she hands these out, and in the pocket is my grandmother has this thing called she calls it a bread box. And it's just a little like crystal box. And when you open it up, it has little slips of paper inside, and they all have a verse. And she says, that's your daily bread. And every time you come in the house, she says, get a slice of bread, and you open it up and it's a verse that you need for that day. And she has taken verses from her bread box and slipped them into the pocket on the front of the pillow. It's the shirt pocket. And so just in this moment, we're all feeling so down and you know, just like sad that he's not there. And then she hands us these pillows, and it has the verse from my grandmother, and it has my grandfather's shirt. And I thought it was going to be a sad moment, but instantly you just sort of felt him in the room. I mean, this thing smelled like him even. It was still, I mean, it was his clothes that had been in his drawer. And I still have it. I'm actually looking at it right now as I'm talking. I still have the pillow. And I'd use it often, and it still sort of smells like him. And it's just a way that he is still so present. And every Christmas I put it out because it's red. It matches all of our Christmas stuff. So every Christmas I put it out. And it's just, honestly, it's just so special. And I think back to that moment of being so concerned about what it was going to be like to miss him, and then to have him there with us, sort of a piece of him in the room. It was just so special.
That's nice. That's nice. Very unique as well. I've never heard anything like that. Yeah. That's amazing.
It was awesome,
very,
y'all.
very
If you've lost a loved one, or you know someone that has, that is like a really beautiful tribute, and it's a really awesome way to like have a piece of them.
Yeah, that's a very creative idea too. I've never heard of that, and that's
I know my mom's
so
the bomb.
good.
She's so good.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
I mean, just amazing.
Almost like matching PJs. Although that, you know, the thing that his family's done with the pillows, I mean, that's got to be so meaningful every year, right?
Yeah.
Matching PJs has got nothing on that. You know what I'm saying?
No, it definitely does not.
I've never done the matching PJs. I think it would be fun to do when your kids are young, but I think if you do it over and over again, it could be, I suppose, a good tradition. I kind of think you'd get tired of it after a while if that's all you've got.
Fair enough.
Right?
Yeah.
There's got to be more.
Like, yeah. For me, I'm like, matching PJs, whatever. But I love the idea of themed PJs. So like Christmas themed PJs would be cool. Or like in my house, if it was the Avengers themed PJs, it would happen every single year. I'm sure.
Not the same PJs every year. Just a different
No, it'd be
theme
like
every
probably
year.
new ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
As new characters come out or new movies come out. Yeah.
It can get pretty costly too.
That's the thing, yeah.
Like you've seen in the stores the Christmas suits that are, you know, and I'm thinking to myself, that's kind of fun and amusing, but
totally, yeah.
You're going to buy it and likely wear it once or twice. You can't wear it every year.
Exactly.
So you got to buy another one every year or something.
Exactly.
I don't know if I'd spend the money on something like that, you know.
Yep.
But speaking of kids, Aaron Williams, co-founder of Dwell Songs, got a great story to share about something that happened with his kids.
I have two little boys. My oldest son's 7. My youngest is just turned 5. And so he just turned 5. He was 4 at Christmas. and he loves to draw and paint and just, he just get in a creative space. And so he was drawing and painting this Christmas tree with presents under it, and he was going to give it to one of our neighbor friends. And I was listening to a song in the car, and it had this lyric in it that basically was talking about the arrival of Jesus and how the artist stepped onto the canvas. And I wasn't doing it intentionally, and he brought that lyric up to me, and he said, "Dad, what does it mean that the artist stepped onto the canvas?" And here he is painting this Christmas tree, and I literally got to try to teach him, well, isn't this amazing that God was the artist, so he created everything, and then he stepped down into it when Jesus was born. And, it was one of these, as a 4-year-old, I could see his wheels turning. And he brought that back up literally every time that he sat down at the kitchen table to paint something all Christmas season. And I'll just never forget that this year. It just kind of solidified how even his 4-year-old mind, he could get around the idea. He was beginning to grasp the significance of Jesus being born. He created all this, and then he stepped down into his creation. And I think I'll forever kind of remember that lyric to that. I think it's a Hillsong song called Arrival. I'll just never listen to that lyric in the same way again, after watching my son paint and talk about it.
Wow. Thanks, Aaron. That was good. That was really good. Yeah. Speaking of lyrics, you hear a lot of similar themes in Christmas songs, don't you?
Yeah, that's true. Like themes of hope and joy, peace, love, obviously.
Adoration, oh, come let us adore him.
That's right.
Yeah, all that stuff. Tim Timmons was one of our guests this past year as well.
Yeah, Tim has something really, really great to share today.
Oh, there are some hard moments that I have. I think there's a idea when everybody says Merry Christmas, when it hit me that the word merry didn't mean actually happy and happy-go-lucky, happy Christmas, that the Old English word of merry actually means mighty or powerful. And I think when that hit me, I was like, oh gosh, that's pretty strong. Like this is either just a happy Christmas where baby Jesus is born, or this is a mighty and a powerful season. I think it gave Christmas a bigger meaning for me.
Wow.
That was amazing.
That was. I never even thought of it from that perspective. And it changes it changes it all, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. I have a Christmas song called Mighty Christmas, and that's the whole story behind it.
I never knew that.
Right? That's
amazing. It really is.
It really is.
And it changes your perspective on everything, doesn't it?
It really, really does.
So happy Christmas to you. Forget the merry part.
And to you.
Well, the merry still makes sense, but
that's right, yeah.
It's not what we think it is. It's not the happy-go-lucky thing, right?
Yeah. That's so good. Speaking of so good, next up we have a legend in the CCM world. He is one of the greats and one of the finest, and we get to hear from Scott Wesley Brown.
When I was a little boy, I wanted a bicycle so bad for Christmas, and just kept asking my parents, nagging them, and just saying, please tell Santa I want a bicycle. And finally Christmas morning arrived, and my brother and I ran down the steps, and there in the Christmas tree were all the presents, and I was looking around, and my brother went, hey, I got a bicycle.
Oh.
And I remember just being so distraught. My brother got a bicycle, and I looked at all the other presents, and I looked at my parents. I said, he got a bicycle. My dad said, son, turn around. And I turned around, and there was a bike sitting there for me. And I guess the point of that is I'd been so caught up in everything, the Christmas tree, the lights, all the presents, all the glitter of Christmas, that I missed that I had a bike. And I think the same thing can happen to us spiritually. We can miss Jesus at Christmas. We can get caught up in the whole thing and miss the whole point.
Yeah, I think it's so easy just to miss the whole point of Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
For me personally, I guess what I'm looking forward to this Christmas is just the rest, for one. and the focus. And the rest has to do with the fact that leading up to Christmas, for me anyways, and I'm sure for many others, it's just a really, really busy time of year. From September onwards, for me at the radio station, just crazy busy with adding the new Christmas songs, getting them scheduled, on-air promotions, special programming, whatever. And as I said, I think it's a time for many other people to take the time just to rest, but also to focus on the meaning of Christmas, the true meaning of Christmas, because that gets lost in this culture that we live in today, right? So not only focusing on Christmas and what it's about, but also looking at life, your family life, even your work life, and things in general, and maybe even focusing on what you want to change in your life.
Right.
It's almost like a New Year's resolution, but it's
Yes.
not, because this is something you need to be serious about, right? What changes, what things would you like to see differently in 2022, right?
Yeah, so what you just said, the last part, is my thing too. As I go deeper into this holiday season, and for me, it's two things. It is kind of like trying to make these small but powerful changes in my routines, in my mindset, whatever the case might be, and implement them now.
Right.
Start and create some sort of routine, some sort of like process. So when 2022 comes in, I'm already in it. So that's a big thing for me. So just changing up the routines, a healthier way to kind of, live life and find what works for me. But also trying to do less. I'm doing less parties this year, less gigs. I still got to play because I got to eat. But I'm doing less of the things that cause stress and tension this year, because sometimes it's always about the parties and always about getting the perfect gifts, and always I'm doing a lot more experience gifts with like friends and family this year.
Right.
Less, Amazon shopping, less going to the mall, doing less parties in terms of me going out, doing less, hangouts. Just trying to make things a little bit quieter and simpler this year.
The going out can be exhausting.
It really can.
If you're going to take time
I'm a heavy
between
introvert,
Yeah.
so I need that space.
Yeah, and if you're going to be taking time between Christmas and New Year's, and sometimes you're kind of forced to because that's the only time you can get together with everybody, right? But at the same time, if you're going every single, I can't go every single day doing something like that. It's like when I've gone on cruises in the past. I don't mind, landing at an island and touring that island. But hopefully the next day I'm not landing at an island and I can have a sea day and just kind of relax and recuperate, get ready for the next trip out, right?
I'm the same way.
Yeah, so between Christmas and New Year's, it's funny because my wife and I have been kind of making plans already. We've got this that we have to attend. We've got this that we have to attend. Let's spread it out a bit. Okay, we got a day in between. That's great. And she's still working between Christmas and New Year's. I've got some time off, but she's still working. So she's got to think about, how much she can handle physically and mentally as well, right?
That's right.
So between my wife working, the kids are still doing their part-time job at the grocery store. So I'm going to be going back and forth, but I get probably the most break out of everybody in my family. I'm not gloating or anything. I need that time to rest, I kind of am. Yeah. Sorry. Okay.
Well, that's good. And I think these are all sort of, wise things for us to do and healthy choices, blah, 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 blah. But it's good. And it's a good way to sort of spend the Christmas season, I think. Speaking of good ways of spending the Christmas season. Next up, I believe we have Mr. Brett Perkins. Let's see what he has to say.
My dad surprised me and my older brother with a trip to Texas to go hunting. And so we walked downstairs. We saw these two big coolers. We didn't know what they were for, but inside the coolers was some hunting gear and a binder, and it said, we're getting on a plane tomorrow and we're flying down for a 3-day hunting trip in Texas. And we flipped out. Yeah. I remember watching the video. This 13-year-old Brett is super country Brett, and I said, Dad, no. And I ran over there. I started crying and I hugged him.
Now, if we could just put everybody at ease, you were not hunting reindeer, just so we're clear.
We were not hunting reindeer.
Okay.
No, we were hunting other
That would
things.
just ruin Christmas, you know what I'm saying?
No.
Yeah.
No, they were whitetails.
Okay.
And then there was like hogs and other things too, which is fine. But yeah.
Okay, that's good.
So what I'm hearing is Rudolph is still alive, right?
So
the
relieved.
reindeers are safe. That's what I'm hearing. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, kids, you can come back in the room now. Here we go.
Up next, Josh Wilson with a Christmas story that I'm sure has happened to many of us. Not necessarily at Christmas time, but certainly it's more meaningful at this time of year.
Yeah, so I can tell you about a Christmas memory that I've thought about hundreds of days a year for the last 20 years. I was saving up. This was my junior year of high school. I was saving up for a guitar, and I went to the music store every day after school to go play this guitar. It was a Taylor, and every day I'd go play it after school, and I was saving up, and I had about 3 months left until I had the money to buy it. I actually taught guitar lessons for my job, and I was saving up the money, and I went into the store one day, and it was gone. Somebody had bought it, and I was devastated. I mean, it was just sort of my dream guitar, and I went home and sort of moped around for the rest of the week and told my parents, somebody bought that guitar I was saving for. Well, fast forward to Christmas, and I walk out, and that guitar is under the tree. My dad had bought the guitar. The store owner called my dad and said, listen, Josh has been looking at this guitar. Someone else is eyeing it and about to buy it. I just wanted you to know that it's about to be gone. And my dad went and bought it because he knew how much I wanted it. And it is the guitar that I have played at thousands of shows, thousands of concerts. I use it, you know, I play 150 shows on it a year. And it's pretty much my only guitar. I've got a backup that I use when this one's in the shop, but I got it in the Christmas of 2000.
Wow, Josh still using the same guitar after all these years. That's like 20 plus years already. Incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. What about you? Do you still have an original guitar that you got many, many years ago and you still play it?
You know what? I do. But it wasn't on a Christmas day. It was actually for my birthday. When I first started getting into music as a Christian artist, that is, a bunch of friends pitched in and helped me buy a really nice guitar, Larrivee DO3. Sounds amazing. It's actually right behind me right now. Mm-hmm. Still sounds as good as ever. And yeah, I loved it. It's amazing, and I love playing it. I have other guitars I use, but this one just feels like home always.
Right, because you've had it for so long, and you can remember all the gigs that you've played with it and everything else.
That's right.
Yeah. Do you typically, with your kids and whatnot, play songs on Christmas Day, like whether before you open gifts or after gifts? Like, do you have any kind of traditions like that, given your musical background?
You know what? I've actually done a lot of the stuff on Christmas Eve, especially in that season where I wasn't working at a church. I had my Christmas Eve off, right. which was brilliant, which was great.
Yeah.
And so we'd come home and sort of sit around and lounge around, and I'd bring out the guitar and sort of we'd do the silliest of all Christmas carols.
Sure.
But on Christmas morning, I always make a really cool Christmas playlist filled with like not the usual songs.
Right.
So I'll find like, you know, really cool like R&B or gospel artists sing songs. I'll find like some really, you know, hidden away rock artists sing these songs. Not the usual like Bing Crosby or stuff like that. Just random stuff. And that'd be a big dance party all Christmas morning. And so we'd be making breakfast or, you know, whatever, sitting around the tree or opening presents, and it'd be like dancing, singing, gifts, laughing. Yeah. That's our tradition usually.
For us, breakfast is a big deal. And we're probably going to tone it down a bit this year because I'm the type of guy, when I wake up, brush my teeth, shower, I want to eat. Right?
Yes.
I don't want to wait. And yet we always, every Christmas, plan this big breakfast, and it's a lot of work, and we all kind of chip in and help prepare. But, you know, I would have eaten an hour and a half ago, and like I'm starving and I'm getting grumpy and stuff, right? Yeah. So we're probably going to tone it down a bit this year. Maybe we'll pre-make some stuff the day before. Like I make some awesome French toast. So I've got that in my calendar. That's something I'm going to do on Christmas Eve day or something like that. Make that for the next morning, and then half the battle's done, right?
Yeah.
And then after that, after we've eaten, pour some tea or whatever, just kind of relax, and then we'll read the Christmas story, and only after we've read the Christmas story, then we'll open gifts. So that's many, many hours later.
Right.
Right?
Right.
But it's interesting because, you know, I think a lot of people do that where they share the Christmas story before they open gifts just to keep things in perspective.
Totally.
And Anna Golden has this story to share with us.
Okay, so I was raised very, very, very religious. And my parents since then have been like, you know, just gotten to know the Lord a little more. We're not as legalistic about everything. But when we were kids, we were very sheltered, very religious. We were like family that never listened to any sort. It's like crazy the fact that we ended up in mainstream music. Like we didn't listen to any secular music growing up. That was uncalled for.
Right.
We like extremely sheltered. We're all homeschooled. I have 3 siblings, so it's 4 of us. But a practice that we had on Christmas is before we could open our gifts, you know, we had to remember what Christmas was about. So before we opened our gifts, we all had to recite Luke 2 by memory.
The whole chapter?
The entire chapter. And
My
I'm
goodness.
like, I'm the youngest. So like, I was like a little kid, and it was like we had to do it, all of us, all four of us. And then like we had to keep starting over. And I remember being so little, being like, in those days, Caesar Augustus issued a decree that a census should be made, taken to the entire Roman world. And it was like literally, like, why do I know that?
Right.
But that was we had to do that before we opened gifts.
Wow.
And we would just like sit on the stairs and be like so exhausted until we could all get it. But
So
we don't do that anymore.
So by Christmas Day, nighttime, it's starting to get dark. You finally get through it all?
Oh yeah, I mean we'd get there by the grace of God, and then
Right.
like my parents would then sometimes let my siblings help me, but I was like so small, like I was like just this little kid. I don't even know if I knew what I was talking about. But they were gonna make sure that we knew. We were never those kids that could believe in like Santa Claus, Tooth Fairy. I remember my mom being like, none of these things are real. The only thing that is real is Jesus. I'm like, okay. So like I didn't get any of that. We didn't put cookies out. We were reciting Luke 2.
Right. or practicing for the next day, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
We're all
exactly.
memorizing
That's
our 100 verses.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I've yet to meet anybody else that had to do that. So.
Yeah, this is the first I've heard this, so that's incredible. That's incredible. And I'm impressed, can I say?
Yes.
No?
Same here.
Yeah,
Same here.
impressed, a little traumatized.
There's a
we brought up in therapy.
There's an idea for parents with young children, a new thing to start, new tradition to start up.
Gosh.
There you go.
Yeah, maybe just go for like 2-3 scripture verses, whole chapters.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. Agreed. Oh man.
So funny.
Can you imagine? That would not be my favorite thing about Christmas, that's for sure.
That's right, eh? That's right. Well, speaking of favorite things, these are a few of my favorite things.
Love that musical, by the way.
Nice, eh?
There's a tradition for you.
That's right. Yes, exactly. Here's our friend Rochelle Luke with her favorite thing about Christmas time.
The first thing that comes to mind is actually singing in a choir at Christmas. That was something I grew up doing in a little church that I grew up in. Every Christmas we would sing together, and I still have been able to do that now. Before the pandemic, that Christmas we had a choir at my church, and that was really special to lead that and to be part of it. And so I think that tradition of singing together and just all the joy and laughter that comes with rehearsing as we get ready for Christmas, those have been really precious memories of that time of year.
Yeah, there is something really special about a choir at Christmas time. The voices, the songs,
the harmonies.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Speaking of choirs, Aaron Schust with something similar to share with us.
Well, I'll tell you the first thing that I think of when I think of Christmas. And maybe I'll have a more meaningful one later on today, but the first thing that I'm thinking of is, in fact, Christmas Eve services. Singing in the choir in the church that I grew up in. This church is slightly over 100 years old now. Is very traditional. I'd sing in the choir, and we'd be up in the choir loft all night long, but of course, at the end of the service was the candle lighting. And we would sing Silent Night. We would sing through... I pretty much a cappella. Maybe I could hear an organ in the background, which is cool if you know the origin of the hymn "Silent Night" with the organ that didn't work one night in Salzburg. I think I'm getting the name of that city wrong, but still, I don't know that story, but I know my story, and it was just tearful, just because it's kind of like watching a sunset. When you watch a beautiful sunset, and you hear a violin playing, you're like, I don't know why I'm crying, but I am, because you're just witnessing beauty, and to see the room full of candles, not just candles, but representing people that I knew and loved. At the end of this build-up, it's now we're here. We finished the Christmas Eve service, and we're going home. And the first row would leave first, and the second row would file out, and we would sing all 3 verses, of course, in like 2 minutes flat, and then we would hum the 4th verse, and we would sing "Ooh" on the 5th verse with parts and harmony. And here I am standing in the middle of the choir with the best surround sound ever, people standing all around me, and I thought and I look forward to that every year that I was in that choir, and miss it to this day.
I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about that. The description that you had about the the humming and the oohing and stuff like that and the harmonies and stuff. It's like, oh man, that would be amazing.
Yes. There's something about standing in the middle of a choir too. It's completely different from being in the audience and hearing a choir.
Yeah.
But when you're standing in the middle of it, the tenors are on your right and the basses are on your left, and the sopranos and altos in front of you. It's nothing like it.
Ah, heavenly.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's one thing to listen to a choir, which I love, but it's a totally different experience when you are in and singing with the choir.
Yeah.
Like caroling. Have you ever done that before? You ever done the door-to-door caroling or something similar to that?
Not door-to-door caroling in past years. Many, many years ago when I was involved in running a youth group, we got a flatbed truck with a sound system, and we cranked out the tunes, and we had microphones and everything else, but you heard really just the tracks when driving down the street. And we went in all the side streets. The cops never stopped us. They probably should have. It was very unsafe. There weren't barriers on this flatbed, so people could fall off, right? Yeah. But, you'd see people, it'd be nighttime, right? So you'd be driving along, and you'd see the outside lights coming on in various houses as you're driving along. They're trying to figure out where's this noise coming from. It's not noise, okay? It's caroling.
Right, exactly.
But yeah, you'd see happy faces, and then the neighborhood that we drove in was where some of the youth lived. So their parents would come out, they'd wave. I think we stopped at one house and had some hot chocolate or whatever. So
perfect.
So yeah, it was a fun experience, and if you haven't done that sort of thing, not necessarily on a flatbed truck, but going door to door, why not? It's a lot of fun, and you might get the door slammed a couple of times, but I think people, for the most part, appreciate the fact that you can share the love of Christ when throughout the rest of the year you can't.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. So awesome. And hey, speaking of caroling, our next guest is Monique Therese, and I wonder if she's doing some caroling right now in the Bahamas, which is where I like to be.
Oh, to spend Christmas there. Let's go.
Oh my gosh, please.
Okay. Well, I have a very short but fond memory of an experience when I was younger, growing up, and every Christmas we would have a group of carolers, Christmas carolers, come outside of our house, and they would sing Christmas carols. And I think they did that for many years, but they no longer do it. But I really enjoyed that growing up. It felt like it was one of those things that, when it happened, it felt as if, okay, it feels like Christmas now because, the carolers are outside, singing. So that's one fond memory I have of growing up as a child and having that one particular thing in your life as a part of Christmas that, stood out as, okay, this feels like Christmas to me.
JK, we got time for one more guest.
One more guest. I can't believe everybody who's dropped by to share Christmas stories with us today. This has been incredible. This has been a lot of fun.
Totally. What a year it's been, eh?
It has.
Chatting these great people. So good.
I can't believe we get to do this. And I can't believe many of them have come back just to share what Christmas means to them. And Shauna Kane, she was the 2021 Juno winner for the Contemporary Christian Album of the Year, and she summarizes things really great for us.
I guess it would just be coming together with family and having a time to eat and enjoy each other's company, and really having that moment where it feels like a pause in life. It's like the Christmas time, it's like everyone comes together, there's a pause, we all enjoy the time. We're not thinking about work the next day, we're not thinking about this or that, we're just really in the moment. So those are just the moments that I think are cherished.
Oh, well done, Shauna. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
It really is. Everything we've heard from all of the many guests that have joined us today, some great stories, some great memories. Before we go, just a quick shout out to Mike, our producer. He took over from Travis earlier this year. He's been doing a phenomenal job just piecing everything together and getting the episodes out. Also want to thank you, Drew, for dropping by for this episode. Great to see you again, great to chat with you again, and great to share all these memories as well.
Totally. It's so good to be back and so good just to see your face, JK. It's been a while.
And listen, thank you to all of our listeners. If it weren't for them, if it weren't for you, we would not even have a podcast. And we would love to hear your stories as well. If you've got a story to share or a memory that you'd like to share with regards to Christmas, let us know in the comments. Share this episode with your friends and family. I found out recently that our Christmas episodes are one of the most listened to episodes throughout the year. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Between Grooves. Looking forward to 2022.
Indeed.